Hi everybody, this is Graham Donnelly coming to you from the Spiritual Events Directory and on behalf of the Wellness Business Academy. I'm normally joined each week at this time by the lovely Kelly Kingston, who is unfortunately unable to be with us tonight. But what Kelly has asked me to do to keep things moving is to handle this on my own. So this is a really new experience for me. So let's get stuck straight in. What I would like to do tonight is I'd like to tell you a story, and the story is about my own experience in running businesses and usually running them the wrong way, and then finally realizing that that I couldn't sustain that, and so therefore I found a new way. So the story starts, I guess, with me as an accountant in public practice for many years and running businesses that were all consuming, taking up many hours of my time, detracting me from family, from friends, from hobbies, and so on. And we find ourselves in this situation with a lot of businesses that we work with that are in a similar situation. So back in 2006, I was literally in a business that was supposedly successful, turning over in excess of $1 million a year, and I had 10 staff. We had large office space, commercial office space, and from the outside, it probably looked like everything was going really well. But the bottom line was that the business was literally eating me alive, and I could see that it was not a sustainable model. It was causing issues with relationships, with health. There weren't enough profits. There was always too much month left at the end of the money, as they say, and it just wasn't going to keep working. At around about that time, I was introduced to a number of people that literally changed the way I looked at business and have allowed me to help hundreds and hundreds of businesses since. And the person I met, two people I met originally, one was a gentleman called Roger Hamilton, who we have mentioned before on this channel. And he introduced me to a concept of profiling, what he calls a wealth profile. And I can talk about that on a different presentation. But as a result of that, fundamentally what it allows us to do is to identify what our unique talents are, and therefore what parts of our business we should be spending most of our time in as the business owners. And once we know our wealth profiles, then it's easy to understand why things work, why things don't, and focus on those areas that work, obviously. I also use the wealth profiling tool for employees, for clients, for customers, for suppliers even, to understand how they work, so that when you're communicating with them, you can you know how to deal with them properly. So recommend that highly. Happy to provide links. Kelly will help us forward those on later on. But Wealth Dynamics is a fantastic tool. I still use it to this day. I never go into business with someone whose wealth profile I don't know for certain, and I don't employ people whose wealth profile I don't know. So very important tool. As a result of that network of people that came from that space, I was then introduced to a gentleman called George Bakanchev, and George had created a business model that I soon understood to be called Red Day Coaching. I think these days the Red Day brand has evolved into a new brand, and again, happy to provide details of that at a later date and links to that information. But fundamentally, I was in a situation where I was working, 70, 80 hours a week. My health was poor. My relationships at home were struggling because I was never there. And when I was there, I wasn't present. So it was really not sustainable. It was never going to keep working. So fortunately at the time, I was introduced to George, and I went along to a Red Day introductory seminar. And again, it literally changed the way I saw things, and using these tools and George's teachings, I've literally helped hundreds and hundreds of businesses since. Fundamentally, the Red Day coaching principles are all about identifying, instead of us working hours or days, we work in colors. And it's a really simple model, and it just made sense to me at the time. Fundamentally, there are three colors. Red is time that we spend what we refer to as working on our business. Michael Gerber wrote a fantastic book called The E-Myth, and that's exactly what that's all about, is how do we work on our business as opposed to in our business. Working on it is strategic, it's planning, it's getting things organized, it's establishing relationships, it's just making things work better, and particularly better without reliance on the business owner. The other colors are yellow. Yellow is what I term as the technical aspects of the business, and it's working in the business. So if you're a bricklayer, you're laying bricks. If you're an accountant, you're doing accounting and tax and things like that. And the third one, which is the best one of all, is green. Green days are defined as days off. And I love George's definition of this when he told us that a green day was midnight to midnight, no work, okay? No email checking, no making a few phone calls, no, I'll just do that little job and that'll save me some time on Monday. None of that. So a green day was defined as a day off, and that was what we aspired to. And the model that George created was a model called 24-170. And the 24 related to the maximum number of hours per week that the business owner would work. Maximum 24. And people look at me and go, that's not possible. Well, I know it's possible. I've been living it for the last 15 years, and I've witnessed a lot of businesses that are operating in that or even less hours per week. And the 170 relates to the number of green days that the business owner takes each year. So people look at me and go, well, how is that possible? Like 170 days, that's nearly half a year. But if you think about it, a business owner employs a full-time staff member. That full-time staff member, under normal circumstances, there's different awards and things are slightly different, but fundamentally they get 2 weekend days per week off. So you're paying them to take those 2 days off. They also get 4 weeks annual leave. So there's another 20. They get about 12 public holidays per annum that they effectively get paid for. And they're entitled to usually around about 8 sick days. So when you work all that out, it's about 144 days off a year that you're actually allowing your full-time employees to take off. So the way I looked at that was, well, if I'm paying people to take 144 days off a year, why shouldn't I at least get the same? And taking an extra couple gives you the 170. Effectively, if you worked a 4-day week every week for 44 weeks of the year, check the maths, but it comes up to close to that 170 mark. So the idea was to try to fit your work week into 24 hours per week only. Now, what that allowed you to do was to spend more time doing the things that you love outside of work. That is family, friends, sports, hobbies, health and fitness, all the things that we supposedly go into business to allow us more time to do. Very few people go into business to work 100 hours a week and ruin their marriages and relationships and their health. I mean, that's just not the point. And George produced a fantastic video called The Great Lie, or The Big Lie, sorry. And it was all about people joining the self-employed space, thinking that they were going to create the big life, but in fact created the big lie, because they then became more stressed, had less money, less time, and the rest of it. So it's all about creating a business that fundamentally can operate more without you than with you. So then we come back to the 24 number in that model. And one of my very close friends, Wayne Hutchison, was appointed to me to be my Red Day coach for a number of years. And Hutch, as we call him, again, was fantastic. And it was a living example of the Red Day system. Wayne had come from a background where he bought a transport business, effectively a truck with a with a tray back on it, and he did furniture removaling. So he actually created a business from that yellow business where he was just working as the sole employee of his own business, and created a fantastic business that he eventually sold. He loved the system so much, he actually became a coach himself and has helped literally hundreds of businesses himself as a coach. So I don't purport to be a coach, but I can identify issues for clients and maybe direct them to people like Wayne and George, who can certainly help to create, these types of things. So within that 24 hours per week, we then identify what time we're spending. Is it in red, strategic time, or is it in yellow, technical time? And the idea ultimately is to try to spend more time in the red space working on your business than in the technical space working in your business. Because the more you work on it, the less it actually relies on you to produce income, which means that you can actually step out of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant model that we spoke about, I think, last week, where we're out of that E and S quadrant, employee and self-employed quadrants, and moving into the business and investment quadrant. So that's what it was all about. And of course, when we create what George describes as a red day business, it has greater value because it doesn't rely on a particular individual so much. So therefore, an external person can come in and buy that business and still gain the benefits from being the business owner without necessarily being a bricklayer or a highly technically competent accountant or whatever the skill is, because they're running a business rather than creating themselves a job, which is what happens in the self-employed or the employee quadrant. So how do you do that was, obviously a lot of people say, well, how do I possibly go from doing 60, 70, 80 hours a week to 24? And the answer to that is you do it slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a switch that you can flick. It's something that you just need to work on. And that's where attaching a coach is sometimes a great idea, but at least getting into that mindset where you're actually saying, well, I'm going to create a business, not just a job, just over broke, which is what a lot of people create when they become self-employed. So in order to be able to get down to 24 hours a week and do it with more profit, more growth, more value, is you really just need fundamentally to be very, very strict with your time. And that's where I've always introduced the wealth dynamics concepts, where we identify what it is you should be doing in your business more often than not and get you doing more of that. And the way that you move from doing everything to doing just the things that you are uniquely good at and are the greatest value to your own business is a process. And that process is identifying which tasks you're doing at the moment that you shouldn't necessarily be doing. And there's a great system the boys use to identify those things, and you basically look to eliminate them or outsource them or delegate them to someone else who has, interestingly enough, got as their wealth profile exactly the things that you're doing poorly, because that's something they do very well. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview as to the concepts, but it is very possible. There's examples of people doing, there's a book written by a guy called Tim Ferriss called The 4-Day Work Week. The 4-hour work week, not the 4-day work week, the 4-hour work week. And I do know personally people who have actually, living, breathing examples of that as well, running multi-million-dollar businesses in 4 hours per week. Now, that's insane, but it's definitely possible by just being further and more ruthless with your time. So tonight, hopefully I've just given you a bit of an insight in what is possible. If you need more information or you need help, you find you're in what I've described tonight as a yellow day business, and it's eating you up. It's not performing the way you want. It's it's taking more of your time than you would like. It's detracting you from family, friends, and other things that you would rather be doing. Then call for help. I mean, this is exactly what the Wellness Business Academy, Kelly and her team, are all about. It's what I support Kelly and her clients with from a business perspective, and we have a network of professionals who can help. So Don't sit there and allow it to consume you. Take a stand, reach out, hit us on the pages, and we're here to help. So I'll get some links posted up. Hopefully you've got some value out of that. The story as it ends is that since 2006, I personally have not worked any week more than 24 hours in that week. So it has allowed me to pursue other interests, and I strongly identify in clients who are in a bad space how they can exit from it, introduce them to the right systems, the right people, and allow them to move forward and create the great life, the big life that we're all looking for as being self-employed. So hopefully that was of some value to all of you. Great being here. Hopefully I've presented that okay on my own. We'll be back next week with Kelly and talking to you about another relevant business topic. Thank you to Sarah from the Spiritual Events Directory, and look forward to seeing you soon. All right, bye for now.